All right, everybody. I'm Tiffany Harlick. If you're new to my work, I appreciate you being here. If you're old to my work, I appreciate you being here. Today is all about looking at the Mercury retrograde transits. And I just wanted to kind of deconstruct it. You know what I mean? Like we do in the chef world. It's like, let's break this down into bite sized pieces. Mercury retrograde doesn't have to be so vague. In preparing for this, I read a lot of like hate, like astrology hate, which was so great and refreshing because it was, I don't know, it just was like, let's look at the astronomy of it. And in a scientific approach to kind of debunk it like made it even stronger for me. I'm like, that's why this makes sense. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that I hope help you really understand Mercury retrograde in a new way that feels kind of refreshing to you. Um, and we're going to go through the current cycle. We're recording this in December of 2023, but the main focus is going to be on the three cycles of 2024. I had in the process of this, I created kind of not a new technique, but just like a Tiffany twist on how I want to look at Mercury retrograde. And I'm calling it the medicine wheel approach. And you'll see why I'm doing it that way shortly. A lot of you guys are intermediate astrology students here, which is awesome. So I hope that it gives you some ideas on how you can start your own chart interpretation when it comes to looking at the transits, which is the name of the game. Because I want you guys to not feel like you have to hire an astrologer. I want you to be empowered to understand just a few things so that you know yourself, love yourself, and understand the timing of your life. Um, I am going to share my screen. Desu offered to let people in, which I appreciate, so I'm just going to ignore that. And if people come in late, if you'll pretty
Yep.
please let them in. You guys can see this okay? Excellent. So the cosmic reroutes. So I have a friend who I love dearly, and she had a habit of being late, and I was like, because I'm really not late, and so I had to lighten up a little bit because I love her so much, and so we had this heart to heart conversation about, hey, when you're late, my energy is all like I'm preparing energy for us for this time, and when you do this it pushes everything this way, and I know that I'm a little uptight about that, so I can loosen up, but can you also like let me know when the plan changes? And so we had this great heart to heart, and she's not late anymore and I'm not a jerk about it anymore. But the idea is she the next time she was late, she was kind of scared to let me know, and she was like, hey, I'm having a cosmic reroute. And I was like, yeah, like there's no way you can get mad at somebody that tells you that they're having a cosmic reroute, right? And she was. She had some flat tires. It was a situation. It wasn't her fault. She couldn't have planned for it. But I thought, what a perfect way to describe Mercury retrograde. There will be some cosmic reroutes. I was born during a Mercury retrograde time. I've gotten feedback that some of you were also born during Mercury retrograde, and over time, I have had the feedback that Mercury retrograde isn't so painful if you were born during it. But man, I have analyzed probably 70 charts for this Mercury retrograde cycle in 2024, and some of them hit hard, and some of them don't even touch anything. No major aspects, nothing at all. That's going to be different every time depending on where the retrograde cycle is. So that's why we want to work with this medicine wheel formula that I came up with for us to play with. If you're new to me, I'm Tiffany. I have a master's in health psychology. I'm a registered yoga teacher. I practice in Austin, Texas. I started my astrology studies in the year 2000 here in Austin on South First Street. And I teach astrology, I teach psychic development, I teach beekeeping. You can find me at tiffanyharlick.com. Have a podcast. The guests coming up are incredible. So please stay tuned. It's not really a podcast. It's like this whole workshop series. I am so excited about what's happening in December and January as we record this. You can find the podcast anywhere you listen and also on YouTube. I'm doing some retreats next year, and you can do my newsletter. Little housekeeping before we get going. I want everybody to know that I'm teaching at the Lisa Williams International School for Spiritual Development. If you see Des Lofton in our class here, she is the student coordinator for Lisa Williams. And she's awesome. She's a great resource. If you have questions about the school, if you are brand new to astrology, please come to the beginning astrology course. Here's some other dates to keep in mind. And if you're a little bit like, oh, I want to get my whole certification and be an astrologer and work with Tiff, then please come to the astrology certification program, which we're doing April through September on Wednesday afternoons. Um, just want to throw that out there. Again, if you're new to my work, I have a calendar, an astrology calendar. I offer a membership. If you need to check the membership out before you invest, use the code 1month, ONEMONTH, and you'll get the first month for free. And I offer astrology sessions. So, my promise to you guys today is just to deliver you clear, concise, and accurate information in the way that I understand it. Your promise to me is to not use astrology against yourself. Astrology is like, it is your destiny, it is your fate, it is your script, it is your script from the stars, right? But it's your free will to carry it out however you want. Two people with almost the same birth chart will live completely different lives, right? And so there's that. Astrology is energy. It's a both and. It's a spectrum. We can look at the positive side of Mercury. We can look at the challenging side of Mercury. You guys know I love to tell the story good, bad, who knows. If you don't know that one, look it up. Just said that. So what we're going to do today is a short intro to Mercury because most of you are already on board with the Mercury vibes. We're going to look at the anatomy of a Mercury retrograde. I have a video that I think it's very short that will be helpful for you to visualize what's happening. I'm going to go through the significant dates. I'm going to offer a precise formula for how you can look at your chart or how you can hire me to look at your chart. And we're going to look at Merc Retro through the houses, and then I put slides in for the other retrogrades of the year. We're not going to spend a lot of time there, but I just want you to have the information. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, right? Roman mythology, who's also the god of financial gain, commerce, messages, including divination, including the underworld, including mediumship. Mercury rules mediumship, and it also rules bees and beekeeping and the hive mind. If you are mercurial, you're known as a trickster, coyote energy. And this was kind of cool. The name Mercury is in Latin related to merchandise, merchant, commerce, to trade and wages. Specifically, Mercury was related to grains, so making money through grains, like the bread of the old world. Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo, okay? And so when you think about Mercury, the easiest is your mindset, how you learn. I am so passionate when a parent contacts me or a caregiver or a teacher with a kid that has like a learning disability. Maybe, but maybe they have a really unique, beautiful, intellectual mindset that is different from yours and you don't know what to do with it. So, could we understand your child, student, uh, boss, whoever from a different angle and give them a little grace? What sign is their Mercury in? What house is their Mercury in? Is it constantly afflicted and challenged because of their birth chart? Are they just going through a little season? Or are you going to medicate them based on a 2-week period where they're stressed out and assume and like make a situation where it was just a little moment in time, you know? So these are things to consider. Mercury is your mentality. It offers information exchange, classes. Gemini in the body rules our hands and our shoulders. This whole area, it's about hobbies. It's about neighborhoods. It's about brothers and sisters, your early childhood environment in many ways, your early childhood schooling. So there's that. And you can also think about Virgo information, Virgo energy, health and healing. Um, Mercury rules transportation, so buses, cars. That's why when people say like, "Oh, travel goes hinky when Mercury's retrograde," it's true for many people, because Mercury rules all the ways that we get around, and it also rules our memory. This stuff on the right I pulled from NASA, so there's information about the orbit of Mercury, which we're also going to see in the video. Bloop. So, what's the difference between Mercury and Mercury retrograde? This quote in orange is from Chani Nichols, and she says, "Refill your cup first before you can make miracles elsewhere." Love that. And Mercury retrograde is a time when you can fill your cup first. I have been doing that this cycle, right? This morning, for example, it would have been real easy for me to get up and go hard and do something like get on my computer right away. I didn't. I sat down and I meditated. I did my 10 minutes of somatic release. You know what I mean? Like I did stuff to fill my cup before I came to this table with you guys so that I could make a difference. This is something that we all have access to, right? If you think about the retrograde cycle, just put RE in front of everything. Rethink, revise, edit, redo, reconsider, reignite. All of these words. I like rekindle. I think that's a kind of nice one. I like recycle. I think that's a kind of regenerate, right? And so if you have RE words, I would love for you to pop them in the chat because I always learn something from you guys and I'm like, oh yeah, good one. So re words, let me know what some of yours are. And any questions about Mercury before we go into this whole anatomy piece? I needed to put that in there. I think most of you guys are Mercury efficient, but if you have questions, please let me know. Um, cool. So, Mercury retrograde. You hear about retro shade, right? And you're like, what is that? So there is a shadow period 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the retrograde cycle. Um, Thanks, Tracy. Reassess, rethink, absolutely. So this shadow period, for me, it's so true. It's like, oh, is Mercury retrograde? It's like, no, but it's within that 2 week period. So what's happening? It's like if you think about a baseball diamond and the planet's like running the bases, it's going over these points in the zodiac that it is then going to go back over during the retrograde period. And as it comes forward again, it's going to take a couple of weeks over those same zodiacal points. Is that the way you say that word? Zodiacal? You know what I mean? So it's like the baseball field is a great visual for what's happening in the shadow period versus the retrograde versus the shadow period again. So there's a pre shadow and a post shadow. So post shadow, retro shade. And it's worth knowing what's going on during that first little shadow period because those are the exact themes that you're going to encounter so that you can reassess. The human mind makes, I don't want to say the mistake, but it's like it makes this kind of assumption that for this little moment, oh my God, this is I'm never going to, it's never going to change. I'm always going to be in this thing. It's coming up again. And it's like, no, it's just this little slice of life that is illuminated. And for some of us, it's way, way heavier than others. And for some of us, it's like a breeze. Sometimes a Mercury, because of where it hits your chart exactly. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. Does remember, yeah, duh, regroup for sure. So good job, Tiffany. Everybody give me a round of applause for this diagram I made. Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Des. I see you. All right, so here's Mercury over here, and it's in its pre-shadow period, right? It's just making the rounds, just la-di-da-di. I'm gonna hit this point on your chart. You're gonna pay attention, and then now I'm gonna start my apparent retrograde motion. Okay, so I'm going to start this apparent retrograde motion. And as I'm going retrograde, it's like, whoop, I'm going to hit that exact point again. The pre shadow and then the retrograde motion point. I'm not saying that right. And then he's going, la di da di, Mercury's going, going, going. I'm going to station direct again. And now I'm going to hit all these points in the zodiac, blah, 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 the ones that I just hit twice before, a third time. And as I'm doing that, Mercury is entering its post shadow phase. Makes sense to everybody? Can I click on that? And it goes where I want? It's kind of, this is what we want. Look at this cool thing. It's just 48 seconds. This will bring it home for you. Wow, wow, wow. So E, Earth, M, Mercury, S, Sun. You guys as excited about this as I am? I mean, this is making it so much more clear. Obviously, I didn't. I'm looking at an old video from somebody who James O'Donoghue, it looks like, and he's using NASA JPL data. This is not our current cycle, but it's such a beautiful illustration of what's going on, and you can see like, whoop, there it comes again. It's retro, and now it's gonna hit all the points a third time. Okay, enough of that. Does that make sense to everybody? Let me present again so I can see. Does that make sense to you guys? Is it different than you thought about it before? Right? Thanks for shaking your heads. Like I think so too. I'm like this is such a clear situation. It like makes it so much more palatable, easy to understand, easier to embrace the letting the good times roll and the challenging times roll because there's going to be opportunities. So in our Facebook group, I posted why do things happen in threes, and can you see astrologically why that might be true? Because not only does Mercury retrograde or go through apparent retrograde motion, let's just be clear that Mercury does not actually physically back up. You didn't ever see Mercury go backwards, all right? Like, so that's a myth. Um, but all the planets, all the planets are going to have that. The outer planets, Mars, I'm going to show you Venus. I'm going to show you some of those retrogrades at the end of the presentation. So these are the dates, right? Take your screenshots, freak out, take your notes. Um, we're in this current one. As we're recording this, we're in this current one. And I saw, bless her heart, I saw somebody post this morning that we were in Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius until January 15th. We were in Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius until January 15th. And I couldn't help myself because there's so much bad information out there, right? So we all make mistakes. I've made a mistake. I've posted for first quarter moon when it wasn't, made the mistake, apologized. We all goof, but that's like completely erroneous data that people are living their lives by. So what I want to point out to you is that Mercury is not retrograde in Sagittarius until it gets there. It's retrograde in Capricorn. That's a different place in your chart than Sag, you know? And so stuff like that just gets my goat. I want to bring it to your attention so that you can start to not trust every single thing that we see, right? As we go into 2024, Jupiter and Gemini, information overload, especially starting in May, we're going to have to be more discerning. If you missed the podcast episode where Celeste, Sarah, and I did a word for the year for 2024, Celeste was discernment, and this is why. Too much information. What's true? What's real? What's not? Right? Neptune's in Pisces. We're not sure, anyways. It's all Maya. It's all an illusion. But I want to point that out for you because you can get the ephemeris, you can get my calendar. There are things that you can get and study and have the correct dates, and not just blindly think that because somebody posted it was retrograde in Sag that's true. It's not. It's not true. It's in Capricorn and it's backing up into Sag. Okay. I'm going to go through these a little bit more intimately. I was stalling for time so you could glance through this, have the mind satiated, feel like you know the dates. Go forward. So, I'm saying Mercury retrograde in Sag, but it's not. We know that because I just ranted about it. If you think about Sag, it rules travel, publishing, how we associate in our societies with different belief systems, who we group or integrate ourselves with based on beliefs. It rules foreign trade, foreign travel, foreign languages. Sagittarius rules horses. It's the archer. Rules anything we can do to expand our horizons. Sagittarius is jovial. It's very sporty. It's very life of the party. I'm Sag rising, right? So you can see a little bit of Sag energy in Tiffany. I'm going to check the chat. Okay, cool. Renovate, return, resume, repair. These are good. So in this cycle that we're in, Mercury has been in its shadow. And in my life, it has been that way. I've had internet problems. There have been I left my wallet at the grocery store on my daughter's birthday. No idea I even left it there. Like I was living my life. No idea it was gone. It has my passport, every credit card I own, all of the cash I have, right? Like idiot, you know? But that's what happened, and they some girl that works at the grocery store found me on Facebook and was like, "Hey, lady, your wallet with your entire life is here," which is great because I don't have time to get a passport before we're going to Mexico in February, right? So, this is Mercury retrograde shadow period, right? And so here on the 12th, it's going to station retrograde at 8 degrees of Capricorn. I meant to take out the minutes, sorry. So when you're looking at your own charts, I put my chart in as an example. This is where everybody's like, I don't know this part. This is where everybody has like that mental freak out when you're just kind of new and applying it to yourself. Where is 22 degrees of Sagittarius? So here's my chart. There's 4 degrees. I've got Sag rising. There's 4 degrees. We know that there's how many degrees in a sign? You guys know this?
30.
30. Thank you, Rachel. So there's 30 degrees in a sign. So 4 to 30 is going to end somewhere around here, right? So 22, I see there's 21 Sages right here on my Neptune. If this doesn't make sense, please stop me, because if you understand this, you're going to be able to do it in your charts. Um, so it went into shadow smack on my Neptune, and it's going to be backing up over my Mars in my first house, affecting me personally, right? I didn't get to do the class the first time around. It was all of my personal items related to travel, Sagittarius. Is your mind blown? Like, I'm just like living my life as an astrologer, and it's just it happens to me anyways. You know what I mean? I wasn't conscious of all of that when it was happening, but here it is, clearly to myself, to my person, to my personal travel documents. Crazy. Now it's gonna back up, and so we're in retrograde. Sorry, we're in its shadow. We're gonna hit 8 degrees of Capricorn. Now we're gonna back up over it, right? It's gonna station direct right on top of my Neptune again. So you know what I'm gonna do on January 1st? Not leave my wallet anywhere, because I learned my lesson the first time it went around the bases, right? I say January 1st because this is what we're talking about. Mercury goes direct again. So people have this sigh of relief when it goes direct. It's not like not a sigh of relief, but are you paying attention to the patterns that were happening during this period before? If not, I'll just lose my wallet again because I'm a child of the universe and I leave my flip flops everywhere. I leave my car door open. I'll like go outside and I'm like, Tiffany, what? You know? So, uh, on the 20th, Mercury will leave its shadow on 8 degrees of Capricorn, right? My money house, second house, money, travel documents, wallet. I'm going to be really careful in January, but then it'll just keep cruising. So it's going to make sense, right? Okay. So, what house does this retrograde cycle occur in for you? That's what we want to know. The themes of this particular one are going to be the same themes of the one in November, December of 2024. So again, the relationship we have with society, with officials, with the lawmakers, with legislation, legally and philosophically. We are not as efficient when Mercury is retrograde. We're just not. So don't overbook yourself. If you're studying something, you may not be as clear on where you stand. You might be changing your mind philosophically. You might have a pivot of belief systems. You might have if you're in higher education and you're going through testing right now, you might have no idea how you're doing in it at all. The teachers, right? Sagittarius rules teachers. The teachers are affected by this retrogradation of Mercury. So to discuss things at that higher level, not so easy. Your teachers might be questioning what they really think. They might be learning something about themselves. Um, if you need to see a lawyer during this time, it's typically not as smooth. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't see a lawyer if you need to see a lawyer. You just plan for room for error. You might learn by meeting one that it's not the right one for you, and you might need to go through that process of knowing what doesn't work so that you know what does work. And you don't have to wig out about it and go crazy that this was the wrong lawyer or this was the wrong situation. It wasn't the wrong situation at all because you were there, right? There are no mistakes here. You're having a cosmic reroute. And so I want you to lighten up, especially with Sag, it's a fire sign. I want you to lighten up and say, well, I'm having a cosmic reroute, and think of my sweet little friend who had flat tires and didn't do it to me. She wasn't late at me. You didn't go to the wrong lawyer, or you didn't get in the wrong class or whatever because the world is against you, right? It's just a little cosmic reroute. So, what is the medicine wheel formula? So, my teacher, Lisa Williams, teaches the medicine wheel in terms of the Peruvian medicine wheel. This is not a standard kind of Native American medicine wheel. There are many medicine wheels across many cultures, just want to acknowledge that. This is also not exactly her version, but she brought to my attention that we use, look, thank you, Des. Can you guys see that? How do I, can I screen, can you put that document in the chat and I can pull it up, or what? Tell me.
Okay, I'll try and find it and put it in the chat.
Okay, if not, your co-host and you can screen share, because I couldn't find that, and I do want people to see that.
Okay, I just got to figure out where I got it from in my
I know it's in
many
like
things.
I
It's
know.
in a
Well,
file system.
yeah, I couldn't find mine easily either. So if you have it, great. Well, and if not, I'll find it later and email everybody. But this idea that there's opposite and complementary um, medicine in the medicine wheel. So one of them is mind and heart, right? So if I'm giving a reading and I start thinking and my mind is like, Tiffany, say this, you know that they need a liver cleanse. Well, and this is what you need to tell them about the liver cleanse. That can occur psychically in my heart space, but it can also occur in my mind. So I'm having to discern where I'm getting this information from. And if I get stuck and I know that I'm thinking about something, I do the opposite. I drop into my heart. I take a deep breath. I listen from a different level, from a different layer. And so, because we worked so heavily with this last summer during the Master Teacher Program, I realized there's a way that we can do this with astrology too. Because yeah, there's sextiles, and yeah, there's quincunxes, and yeah, there's semi-squares, and they're all important, especially as you're going through the layers of the transits of your life. And yes, they're all important, but wow, these are the louder ones, right? And so if we were listening to a piece of music, it's like, this is the drum beat, this is the bass guitar, this is the stuff that's going to be very obvious. If it changes, it's going to screw everything else up, right? If the beat changes. So we're looking at opposites. So conjunctions, guys, you know this, are when planets are right next to each other in the sky. I personally like to use a 1 to 5 degree orb. Some astrologers go as far as 10 degrees. So you're looking for things that are right next to each other, within 10 degrees of each other. They're kissing in the sky, is how my first teacher described it. This is a kiss. They're holding hands. They're working together. Now, they can be up to no good working together. They can be partners in crime working together, or they can be best friends with the same vision, doing this ultimate goal for humanity. It depends, right? So if you ask a beekeeper or an astrologer, your answer is it depends, because what's the energy involved, right? Now, that's a conjunction. The other thing we're going to look at is the opposition. So what's going on down here? What's pulling it? What's heart and mind? What's making me question, like, why am I feeling pulled in two directions? Which one feels heavier, which allows me to know where I need to lean into? Which one feels off balance? Where can I balance these opposite and complementary medicine of the planets, conjunctions and oppositions? The things that are then make the east-west channel are the squares. So this doesn't mean that all your conjunctions are going to happen up here. Your conjunctions might happen over here, in which case your oppositions happen over here, in which case your squares happen over here, and that's when you start to learn the language of astrology. So what sign is square what sign? What sign is opposite what sign, right? And so your oppositions are really easy, right? This is the axis. 1 is opposite 7, Aries is opposite Libra, Taurus is opposite Scorpio, Gemini is opposite Sagittarius. This is the education axis. Taurus and Scorpio, the money axis, right? And so you'll start to learn these oppositions pretty easily. The squares can be more challenging to take in just because it's a lot of data, but it's basically just a 90-degree angle. Um, now I can't see my title. Are you guys happy? Are you having fun? Am I over? Uh, Goes over the galactic center 3 times. Oh, interesting, Nadine and Sally. Um, Sophia, we're Neptune twins. Okay. You guys doing okay? Okay. So applying the medicine wheel formula. So if we're talking about this one in particular, what I'm doing is looking at the degrees, right? So 8 Capricorn to 22 Sag. Now what I'm teaching you and what you can see in some of my other videos is what opposes what and what squares what. So you don't have to memorize this right now. You're not taking a class right now. You're off the hook. You can enjoy the information. You can take a screenshot and play with it. Right, Capricorn. And if I made a mistake, please let me know because I made this during the shadow period. But Capricorn opposes Cancer, daddy and mommy, right? It squares Aries and Libra, me versus us. It's a big one. It's a biggie. So when it's in 8 degrees of Capricorn, it's going to oppose 8 degrees of Cancer. When it's in 8 degrees of Capricorn, it's going to square 8 degrees of Aries and Libra. Make sense? Ooh, it's a little much. It's a little much. Brains are chewing on things. But roll with me for a minute. So, how do we work with the opposite and complementary information? We're going to find the house where 1 to 8 Capricorn is and 22 to 30 Sag because we're going 22 to 30. We're going to look for the conjunctions, right? The planets that are right next to each other. I'm telling you where we're going to look for them. We're looking for the oppositions, the planets that are exactly opposite. I'm telling you where we're going to look for those. And then we're looking for the squares where they're in 90-degree challenging angles, right? Is this exciting? You kind of excited? It's a lot, but it's fun. So so now we're going to transition into the retrogrades of 2024. So this is the first one. So we start out the new year a little bit slower, blurry, because we're starting out in a shadow period. Venus is square Saturn the first week. It's just kind of like a lower, more sedated energy. January is also a 9 month in the numerology, which was very similar to November. So it's about assimilation, integration, digestion. It's hard to want to go for a run when your stomach is digesting things. It's hard to want to start the new year when you're still kind of incorporating stuff. So think about that as we start the new year. That's that one we're getting out of our hair and we're starting fresh more in February. As the year rolls on, Mercury will be starting its first retrograde cycle in Aries, and it's fully in Aries. It's going from 15 to 27 Aries. So in my chart, as the example, I can't move the thing. Okay. Where is 15 Aries? Anyone? Mine's actually easy. You might be chatting and I might not be seeing it. Nadine's totally flowing. Oh, thanks, Des. Yes, awesome. Save that. Okay, so do you guys need me to tell you? It's right here. Here's 15 Aries. So first you just look for Aries. There it is. And then 15 is I'm on 15, so it's really easy to find in my chart. So it's gonna go from 15 Aries to 27 Aries. Boop, 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 boop. Back up when it starts to retrograde, hits 15 again, and then does its shadow dance. So it's cruising over my 5th house. So Normal Mercury retrograde stuff is going to apply. Um, the communications are going to go haywire. The transportation issues are going to be there too. But instead of perhaps affecting my personal travel documents where it was before, it might affect my fifth house stuff, playing, having fun, going on trips. And I can tell you already that I have a huge conflict around this time because there's an this is a fortunate problem to have. I'm that's not lost on me. My best friend and I go on a trip for her birthday every year, and it falls during the major astrological conference that I want to go to and support my friend astrologer Celeste Brooks, who is teaching this year at this conference in Seattle. So there's a conflict. So I'm bummed, you know? I already know that. There will be other things that affect my ability to play and have fun. I feel like I'm hurting somebody's feelings. I feel like I can't do what I want to do, Aries, right? Like there's things that are very clear already for me personally. So if we were using the medicine wheel, did I make a slide on that? I think I did. Okay. Um, if we were using the medicine wheel technique, we would go, what is opposite 15 to 27 Aries? Well, Libra. So you could see that there's kind of an opposition to my Venus in my 10th house. So yeah, challenging my work feminine, my female work friend that is associated with my career. I'm feeling challenged because do I go support her? Is that the right thing to do? Or do I do the thing with my homie from childhood? I don't know. Um, it's also directly opposite this, right? 22 Libra is my Pluto in my 11th house, the house of the audience, the house of my friends, right? Our chosen uh, relationships, our network, right? So that's not helping me make my decision. So Aries and Libra is opposite Cancer and Capricorn. We're talking about 15 and 22 degrees. I don't have any planets in 15 and 22, so I'm not as affected. This is a loud one for me. So I'm just using personal examples, um, and we can do that in your charts too. So, what do I have here? Themes. Um, in 2024, the North Node is still going to be in Aries. Sometimes we will see people really like imposing themselves on others. That as Mercury gets next to the North Node is a point of fate, a point of destiny, where we feel our calling. You might notice that you feel called in a new direction during a Mercury retrograde period. Do you want to launch something new? Probably not. But you might feel called in a new direction. That's okay. Just spend some time, let some time pass, get data, collect info. Um, we can want to put ourselves forward more. It's Mercury. There's an intensification, right? Mercury in Aries. Also, I just wanted to point out if you're feeling a calling in a new direction, this lines up with my astrology certification. So you could come learn astrology and really make this stuff work for you. Mercury retrograde, we can lose efficiency. We can be in a hurry. We can want things done now. We can make mistakes when that's going on. We can say things that we don't really think, that we don't really mean. So let it pass through the three gates. Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? Say less, especially during Mercury retrograde. Be the observer, be the spiritual warrior, change the energy by doing these things. Car issues, right? Car issues, transportation issues, definitely metaphors for our physical bodies and our mechanical, like the things that our processes, our procedures, the mechanics of things. We can get really angry at ourselves. So this last week, I had three things go wrong. The first time it happened, I was angry at myself. I could not sleep. I was so mad at myself. The second time I made virtually the same mistake, it was like, okay, what's the lesson here? And by the third time, I was so nice to myself and I completely understood everything from a whole different perspective, right? It's beautiful how this life unfolds for us if we'll let it and if we'll watch and if we'll have patience. Um, Things we say can create conflicts we don't want. That's vague. That can happen anytime, but I'm talking about it in particular with this cycle. So there are other ways that Aries is very, very positive energy, right? We sometimes need to be selfish. We sometimes need to see that we're too selfish. So where you are on that pendulum, I don't know, but it's worth considering. You know, do I need more time for myself, or do I have the blinders on and I need to be more selfless, right? So Aries, going as fast as possible, reacting as fast as possible. One of the quickest times I got fired was from an Aries boss. She like boom fired me out of nowhere, and I was like, "Thank you," I mean, because I knew. I mean, she made a rash decision, and I knew that there was no going back. Like that was it for me. So when we have these fast reactions, they can create lasting effects. So we pause when agitated. We pause when we're doubtful. Um, so reacting as fast as possible sometimes works in our favor, not during a retrograde cycle. Um, April 1 through 25. There's other big things going on in April. What do you know? What do you know? We know that Jupiter's going to conjunct Uranus in April, biggest astrological moment of the year. We know that there's an eclipse April 8th. North America is going to have a party, right? There's big astrology. This is the most important month of the year in 2024 in many ways. In many ways. Um, so we're looking at 15 to 27. Did I already do this? I'm feeling deja vu. Did I go the right way? Did I put the slide in twice? Okay, here's some other important dates. I just pulled these from the digital astrology calendar. When we're studying Mercury, it's nice to have these in your journal so that you can feel like, oh yeah, I'm learning more about Mercury, and here's an important date. So Mercury is going to be Cazimi. So Cazimi, I have an article on my blog about what Cazimi is, written by awesome astrologer friend Sasha Boyle. She's based in Pennsylvania. And she taught us about Cazimi. So Cazimi is basically when a planet is conjunct the sun or in the heart of the sun, and it denotes a very auspicious time in the astrology lore. So an auspicious time for what? You know, Mercury, Aries, writing and communicating from the soul, doing soul writing, um, information, aha moments, bright ideas, right? You definitely want to be meditating. You don't want to miss the juicy messages that are out there. What old ideas are coming back into focus about yourself, you know? What do you see? So mark these days, April 12th, 15th, and 19th. Mercury's going to be right next to Chiron in Aries. So Chiron's been in Aries for several years. I also have an article about Chiron in Aries. It will stay there through I think 2027. Correct me if I'm wrong on the dates, but I do have that as a whole um, fun article because you I mapped out the hero's journey with Chiron, and then I mapped out Chiron as a life cycle for all of the different things that Chiron's going to do in your chart. So it's kind of a fun article. But Chiron in the sky, right? Chiron was a wounded healer. Chiron was one of the first centaurs. So Sagittarius is like the sporty football throwing, pizza ordering, hanging out with the guys centaur. Chiron is the one that sits on the edge of the mountain and studies acupuncture with his mentor and drinks herbal tea and comes down and gets hit by the football and gets made fun of. This isn't the myth. I'm just trying to paint a picture of, you know, Chiron is a part of our chart where we feel small, nerdy, different, and it's actually so important, right? Beekeeping. I feel a little nerdy, but I love it. I love it, right? It represents big medicine for me in my chart. So we all have that little piece of ourselves. As Mercury is next to Chiron, this is a time when we can, and Chiron is in Aries, that's a DIY situation. This is a heal yourself moment. This is do not hire an astrologer, become an astrologer. This is do not hire a psychic, focus on your psychic abilities yourself. This is not, I would say, uh, never mind, that's a bad one. You get the idea. It's a heal yourself moment. Um, and I love this quote from Wayne Dyer. He said, there's a big difference between knowing about God and knowing God. There's a big difference, he says. And so, you know, I just love his voice. He infuses so much wisdom. The idea here is that you know you were born with the same two hands, the same physical senses, the same spiritual abilities as every miracle worker that walked the earth. You have it. You have it. It's in you. So this is your moment in April on tax day to to work with it, right? A lot of cool people have this birthday. Worth noting. April 19th, Mercury's going to be right next to Venus in the sky. You probably have read my screen at this point. Just worth seeing what happens. So, how do we apply the medicine wheel formula here? I've already done this as an example, right? Where does this fall in your chart? You're welcome to take a screenshot of this and play with it. Or I opened sessions for me to do this for you guys. I know that my members got this as a courtesy from me. If you're not a member and you want me to look at all of these cycles through the lens of the medicine wheel, I just did a nice rate of 75 bucks. It's in my shop, I mean, it's in my schedule tab. So if you need help with that, I'm also going to use Desiree and Rachel, who are on today, as samples. So if you want to take this information and do it yourself, this is to empower you. And if me doing it helps you empower you, then I'm here for you. Um, let's look at the next one. It's Mercury retrograde in Virgo and then Leo, August 5th through 28th. This is going to remind you of July and August of 2023 when Venus was retrograde in Leo. And I was telling you guys, watch out for travel problems, watch out for delays, and it was true in my life, right? In all of August, I went to New York to complete a master teacher certification with Lisa Williams, and I was telling her like we're gonna have a delayed start, people are gonna arrive late, and so I wanted to come early because I knew that. And of course, I get there, and I've booked the car months in advance, paid for it in full, well over $1,000 for the whole month. They don't have a car for me. You know, my friend's flight is late, like really late, so I'm gonna just be sitting at the Buffalo airport waiting for her without a car. That's a bummer. That's a buzzkill during travel. Mercury retrograde in Leo, right? It's like saving up your whole lives because you wanted to go to the trip on the Bahamas, and then you go and it's your week and you saved, and this is your moment. You feel successful and it rains the whole week and you can't do anything. It's a bit of a buzzkill when it comes to travel. Be aware of it. I couldn't not go. We did start the program late and it was fine. Learned a lot, right? So nothing wrong here. Just go forward with awareness. So in this period, Mercury will enter its shadow in 21 degrees of Leo. For practice, here's 9 Leo in my chart. So I know because there's 30 degrees, I'm going to choo choo train over to about 21 degrees of Leo, right? I'm going to know that Mercury's entering its shadow here. So this is home base to base 1. Trot, 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 trot. And then I'm going to hit 4 degrees of Virgo, somewhere around here. Mercury's going to station retrograde, be in apparent retrograde motion. This is base 1 back to home base. Trot, 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 trot. And then Mercury is going to go direct in 21 degrees of Leo. All right? But it's still in its shadow period. So we're in second base and we're finally moving forward to third base, and we can just move on. That's my chart for an example. The themes with this one, Leo's linked to the 5th house. So creativeness, playfulness, children, the people we love and choose. Again, if you go on holiday, like if you go on vacation, you're probably going to forget something. You're probably, you know what I mean? Like I packed all wrong for that trip as an example. When Venus was retrograde in Leo last August of 2023, I was going to New York. I'm from Texas. It's December, what are we on? December 8th. I'm in shorts and a tank top. It's hot where I live. In my mind, New York is cold, right? So I packed sweaters and jackets, and our room was so hot. I had my hair up every day. I packed all wrong. That's this same energy, right? If you leave, you're probably gonna forget something or need something that you don't have. You're bound to lose something, car keys. This has a more personal impact on ourself, right? Leo is ruled by what planet? Anybody?
Fun.
The sun. I love it. Rachel, you're such a good astrologer. If you want to be an astrologer, you could. I could totally use some backup over here. Um,
Mhm.
if you have important meetings, job interviews, you might not represent yourself so great. You might not put yourself in the best light. You could put yourself in the best light and be totally misrepresented. I have that happen all the time. My human design is a 3-5, right? So I portray myself. You people, the audience thinks I'm this way, and then there's some weird judgment field. It's weird. It's like a perception thing, and it's true, especially for my human design. So the idea is that you might put your best foot forward, but they still might not see you in the best light. So if you're doing job interviews, not the most ideal time. Doesn't mean if you're looking for a job that you don't still put yourself out there. Keep going forward. Just be aware of the lessons, you know? Um, so, this particular cycle, here are the extra Mercury dates. Feel free to take yourself a little screenshot. Know that I got your back, that this is already in your calendar. If you've downloaded the digital astrology calendar, you already have all of this. Um, what I didn't put in here that I should have is there's a very significant date, two dates in 2024. It's August 19th and December 24th. What's going on, guys, is that during it was winter solstice of 2020, there was the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And this is when, and it was happening in 0 degrees of Aquarius. And do you guys remember what was happening on December 21st of 2020 was COVID, right? And so was that the exact date? No, that's what was going on in our society. And we can point to the astrology. Jupiter, widespread. Saturn, everybody stay inside. You're constricted. Wear masks, right? Aquarius, air sign, spreads through the air. All right, so we can see Jupiter Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, widespread panic, widespread people going inside. We can see the disease, the airborne disease. We can see all of this in the astrology. So, since that time, Jupiter and Saturn are making their first square in August and their second one in December. So, yeah, we're going to see some growing pains, but it's also heavily predicted that we will see some more information about COVID, more information about long COVID. I'm like, you guys are the healers and the shamanistas of this world. Put it in your mind that there's solutions. Put it in your mind that there are healing moments. Put it in your mind that things are going to go well. Don't be afraid that it's going to go bad. It might. You might have some bad news. I don't, good news, bad news, who knows? But the idea is we can use the power of our minds to visualize this going well, getting more information and using it wisely. So this is, I didn't put it in here because we're studying Mercury, but I want you to be aware that there's another big thing going on in August. Applying the medicine wheel formula to this one. So, what do we know? We know that it's going to be in Virgo and Leo. We know that Virgo opposes Pisces on the axis. So, health and healing, mystery and blending into source, Virgo and Pisces. Those things square the education axis, Sagittarius and Gemini. Leo, the fixed signs, Leo is going to oppose Aquarius. Can you guys still hear me? It says my internet's unstable. Okay, mild freak out.
Yeah, I can hear again.
And then it's going to square the other fixed. Okay, thank you. It's going to square the other fixed signs, which are Scorpio and Taurus. Those four signs, we know what we want at the restaurant. Our mind is made up before we get there. We have a stubbornness to us, right? We have a way that we think things are going to go. That can work in our detriment. We can get brittle. That can work in our favor. We are sure. So none of it's good or bad. It's all a spectrum. So this is just kind of the general sauce. If this intimidates you, don't worry. We're going to dig deep into that in astrology classes. I'm happy to coach you along the way. This is all easily Googleable information. What's not as easily Googleable is to find these houses, right? So this, I'm telling you exactly where to look for your chart. You're going to look for the conjunctions in this department. You're going to look for the oppositions right here. You're going to look for the squares right here. Oh, so good. So juicy. All right, so this is the next one. This is the last one, and I'm then gonna do some hot takes. And we're running a little over, so no pressure if you need to go. This will be up on the YouTube channel, which I really appreciate if you guys like and subscribe to that. It helps me so so much. To like the different videos to help the algorithm. So Mercury retrograde in Sag. Is it truly in Sag? Yes. It's going from 6 to 22. So it's kind of like the one from December of 2023. But we're talking about 2024. In my example of my chart, here's 6 and 22 of Sag. It's just going to really rain on my Neptune Mars. My spiritual vision will be challenged, right? All right. The themes with this one, same as the last time. Not as efficient, not as confident with what we know. Might be challenged if you're doing legal stuff or if your whole belief system is changing. Right? There was a time when I was 20 and I had one of my first like major spiritual crisis, and I was walking through the Zilker Botanical Gardens in Austin, Texas, and I was really freaked out because I started going to this like I, I was raised with a predominantly Christian background. I went to the churches. I was baptized a lot, and I like the churches and I love them. And I also have had near-death experiences that showed me other things that I wasn't finding in my spiritual home. And then I went to like a satsang, and I went to yoga, and I went to kirtan, and we were singing the names of God. And I had these moments that were so beautiful, but I felt like they were bad and wrong because I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't taught to think that they were bad and wrong. I think I picked it up from the society vibe that I was raised in. I don't know. Um, but I was really having a breakdown because I was finding God in places that I didn't expect, that wasn't what I was taught. Sagittarius, right? And as I'm walking, I'm talking about Mercury retrograde in Sag. Philosophically, something was like up, right? And so I'm walking through this garden, and I had this like God nudge that I looked down. It said, please stay on the path. I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay on the path. And then I had this realization that every different garden, this garden, that garden, this garden, that garden, they're all named differently. They're all named for different cultures. They're all named for different regions. They all lead to the rose garden. And I had so much peace, and my spiritual crisis dissolved, right? Neptune, Jupiter, and then Jupiter rules Sag. And then um, I just, it was a total change in perspective, inner peace like I hadn't experienced. You wouldn't think about inner peace like I hadn't experienced, the peace that passes all understanding. You wouldn't think to feel that during Mercury retrograde, but it came from a dark night of the soul, challenging the way that I experience the world philosophically. I give you guys these personal examples, um, not to preach, just to try to make it real for you, because you have these moments, and I love hearing from you when you have these moments. Teachers are gurus, right? Teachers are church leaders, preachers. All of that's very Sag. So here are the other important Mercury dates in this cycle, if you want to grab those. Ugh, love it, so juicy. And then here are the degrees for the medicine wheel formula. We know Sag opposes Gemini and squares Pisces and Virgo. So here are the exact degrees. It's so easy when it's in one sign. It's like, ugh, I can follow that. Okay, I have Dez's chart because I texted her like 10 minutes before class and was like, can I, can you hop in? So here's Dez's chart. So let's apply the medicine wheel formula to this chart as a group. I haven't looked at this ahead of time. Um, so I'm working on the fly with you all. And what do we know? It's happening between 22 and 6. So we know that here's 11 Sag. That's all we know. This is her going into her 10th house. So 6 is going to start over here. So between 6 and 22. Oh, look, we're Neptune twins too, Des. So her Neptune's in 22 of Sag in her 10th house. What does she do for in the and Sagittarius and Gemini are the access of education. So what does she do for a living? She's the student coordinator for a university of spiritual Neptune students, psychic development, mediumship, healers, right? So she's living her purpose out pretty good. However, this Mercury retrograde cycle, which you could does like it's also very close to the one that's happening this December. We're talking about December 2024, but it's kind of same. What could we expect? What could we tell her? We could tell her that she might be needing to look at some contracts differently. This might be a time when she asks for a raise or a promotion or a shift or some kind of change going on at work. You know what I mean? Like there's a heavy Neptune here that it's going to hit 3 times. So we know some of those issues. She might learn something at work that completely changes the way that she thinks totally about the world at large. She might have an aha moment from one of the teachers or students or her boss or her colleagues. She might have her mind totally blown. She might be the mind blower. That's what astrology can't tell us, right? So, um, that's cool. That's positive. And so let's start the medicine wheel. Yeah. What's opposite of Sag? Gemini. Where's 6 to 22 Gemini in her third and fourth house? So just because she's got all this juicy weight going on at work, she might also feel pulled in two directions of communication, writing, neighborhood, home and family, her roots, her refuge. She might have a huge opportunity at work to what? Sagittarius travel. Like, let's all go to Iceland and do the healing work with Torin and be in the Netherlands and be over there overseas and we're working together. And then her home and family is like, oh, not so fast, lady. We need you over here. And so she might feel pulled in two directions that way, right? I'm not predicting that for her. I'm trying to teach astrology, right? So just everything grain of salt right now. Um, so what's opposite? Excuse me, what's square Sag and Gemini? Anybody? Anybody? So we're talking about exactly 90-degree angles. So we're talking about Pisces and Virgo. And I gave that information to you over here. So we're looking for the conjunctions, the oppositions, and the squares. So Pisces and Virgo, and I know that we're looking in degrees, 6 to 22. So does she have stuff in 6 to 22 Virgo? So 6 Virgos right here, 6 to 22. So this is where it's like you kind of want to know what your belief is on the orbs. It's 6, it's not 4, but she's got Jupiter and Mars and 4. That's pretty close. I'm going to put that in her report for sure. All right. And then Saturn at 24. It's not 22, but it's within 5 to 10 degrees of 22. So I'm going to put that in her report too. It's not exact, it's not precise, but she's going to be feeling some of this stuff, right? So it's this dream job situation not only challenged moderately, no planets here, moderately by communications at home, more heavily challenged by this juicy stuff over here in the 7th house, right? Saturn represents authority figures, our karmas. A lot of times I just call it daddy issues. I don't mean that we all have daddy issues, but we all do. We all have a dad that we have a belief about. And that's the thing to transform, right? Because we often associate our dads with gods, with our God. And so if our dad somehow let us down inadvertently, right, we start to believe that God's going to do the same thing. We start to have a belief system about provision and protection with Saturn involved. Saturn's also very grandfatherly, right? And so does during this Mercury retrograde time in the 7th house, right, she might have some challenges when it comes to Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn things. She might have some growing pains in her marriage. Her husband might want to go one direction and she might want to go the other. I think it's okay to share that your husband is in military. Is that okay to say? Yeah. So her husband, I don't know the nature.
Retired.
He's
He's
retired.
retired.
Okay. So that was a bad example then. I was going to say, I don't know if he gets called to go somewhere else. He could still be called to go somewhere else
Hmm.
not related to his job. He could still say, Des, I've got to go on a man's journey in Utah. I'm going to be gone. So you can't go to the Netherlands because the kids need you and I'm doing this thing. Right?
He
It could,
still works for the military. He still works on base, and he does still does stuff for the military. So yeah.
yeah. So that could line up. You
Hmm.
know, roll the dice with how that's going to play out for you, right? But it's
Right.
more challenging than it is like flowing. So good to know because you can go back and apply what we know about the medicine wheel, opposite and complementary medicine. If I'm too focused in my relationship, what am I going to do? The opposite thing, focus on myself. If I'm too focused on myself, what am I going to do? The opposite thing. How can I be of service to my partner in this time of great challenge? If I'm too focused on my career, how can I do the opposite? Be somebody for my home and family, study my lineage, study my roots, give something of a legacy to my children. If I'm too focused on what my children need, how can I get out of that and just do what I want with my career for a moment, right? So you can do you see how cool this is? I mean, I'm so excited about this. So we talked about this challenge, and then we're going to talk about this one over her, Pisces. Let me take a moment to show you that Aquarius and Leo are intercepted in Desiree's chart. So that it doesn't have its own housey. It's tucked in there. It doesn't like that. She missed out on some things in childhood that will be challenging for her as an adult to overcome, right? And so that's not affected in this cycle. But if Mercury is retrograde over one of your intercepted houses, I want you to go to my blog and find the article on eclipses and interceptions. Buried treasure. This is where the gold is. So I just want to point out if you've never seen an interception, this is what it looks like. Not everybody has one. The only reason that this comes up like this is because I don't use whole house system. That's my preference. You might study with other astrologers who do, and it would be very confusing to get a chart. You might think I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm just using the system that I like to use. I practice Western evolutionary astrology with a tropical Placidus system, and that will show you interesting information like this. Um, Not to lead you astray, but I think it's worth knowing. So we're talking about 6 to 22 of Pisces. So does she have anything in 6 to 22 of Pisces? Yeah, Nadine, what do you see? Yeah, you want to unmute because I know you're right.
Mercury at 21 degrees.
Right?
Yeah, and her sun, what was
Right.
the degrees? Six.
6
So,
to 22.
so the Mercury retrograde is going to affect the 6 and the 22.
So Mercury falls in that and her sun
Where
falls in that. Square. Yes,
where
it's square the Mercury retrograde cycle.
mhm.
So she, if Des, as our example, has just been studying astrology and what she knows is that Mercury retrograde, don't sign contracts, slow down, revise, re-edit things. It's such a rudimentary level of what's really going on for her, right? Because it's going to be square her personal sun. Square, challenge. It's going to be square her Mercury, mental gymnastics going on. This could be a time of great burnout where career, home, myself, what I want for myself, my son, my expression and how I live, my psychic nature, right? Because she's a Pisces. My relationship, all of the major houses are, and I didn't look this up ahead of time, but all of the major houses are lit up for her. So, do you think this is going to be a powerful cycle for her? It could be, you know, if she's listening. you know? If she's the quiet observer during this period of her life, not to me, but to her life, right? And that's where you can be like, oh, thank you. Thank you, Mercury. Do it to me, Mercury. Show me, teach me. I want to know, right? Like, and this is where it's also nice to get the heads up so that when it occurs, you're not like, oh my God, this is it. I'm divorcing, I'm moving, I'm quitting my job, I'm over it, right? And I'm not suggesting any of that. I'm just offering you the idea that with a little time and a little awareness and a little observation, you can see your destiny unfolding right in front of you. And how you choose to play it out is your free will. This doesn't mean that she should get divorced. It does not mean that she should focus on her children. It does not mean that she should quit her job or fire somebody that's working for her. It does not mean any of that. It shows you the great spectrum of emotional intensity during this time that will only bring up what's inside of her. This is her journey. So when you squeeze orange, what comes out? Orange juice. When you squeeze Des during this Mercury retrograde cycle, what comes out? It could be grace and ease and patience and tolerance and flexibility, right? Is she on her spiritual mission and doing her meditation and like filling her cup up so that she's a miracle for other people? Or has she not paid attention to herself so long that this is the breaking point and this is her aha moment and she has had enough? Both of those are beautiful possibilities, right? Nothing wrong with either of them. Mercury retro through the houses. I actually have a whole blog post about this. This is for people that are new to houses. This is just what the houses are. I have worksheets on this, easily Googleable information. This is my take on the houses. When you study with me, of course, we're going to study in opposite and complementary. We're going to study the axis. So we're not going to study the first house without knowing the seventh house. We're not going to study the second house without knowing the eighth house, right? We're going to look at each axis all the way around the wheel and know what works with what doesn't work. Know what's opposite, know what's complementary. So if you're looking at your chart and you're like, oh yeah, this one's going down in my eighth house. Okay, what's my map for eighth house? Well, we know that it's shared resources. We know that it's Scorpio stuff. It's sex, death, and taxes. The deepest, deepest, deepest human bonds are the eighth house. It's visceral. It's also real estate. Well, because it's opposite the second house. It's also estate planning. It's also wills. It's also, right, Scorpio stuff. So this might be a time, if it's falling in your eighth house, that you might be revisiting some of that you might want to refile or rethink or go with another agent or whatever. It's conjuring up for you, right? Other retrogrades I want to touch on, and I also have done this for Rachel, so I'm going to do that for her, and then I'm going to check the chat. Sorry, I'm delinquent on the chat. The other retrogrades, if you just want to take a snapshot, that last Mercury retrograde of 2023 is also doubly affected by this Mars retrograde cycle. Huge intensity around the election. This is a slide from the 2024 forecast that I did with Celeste and Sarah, which is available for the same price we did it in my shop tab. It's 33 bucks. It's a long one, but this is the kind of data that we put in there for you guys. And I took this slide out just as a teaser in case you missed it and you wanted to go check that out. And I'll put it as a link in the replay video. So know that 6 degrees of Leo is a really big one. It's big for the United States. It's big for Israel. It's big for President Zelensky of the Ukraine because Leo and Aquarius, what's their relationship? They're opposite each other. So this Mars retrograde is going to be opposite his Sun and Venus, right? Interesting to consider. These are the outer planet retrogrades. I'm not going to go through them. I just wanted you to have the date since we have a little time together. Okay, and then I want to mark it my digital astrology calendar. If you don't have it already, go to tiffanyharlick.com in the shop tab. It's in 6 different languages this year, so share it with your friends overseas. When you click on the descriptions, like Moon and Aquarius, whatever, it would pop up. This is the description. So you can learn astrology all year long. Want to remind everybody that I'm teaching at Lisa's school 3 times, and then the certification program begins. If you buy the certification program, you get all of these classes for free. So make sure that if that's something that you want to invest in this year, there are payment plans. You are in good company. The students that have registered are awesome. You are going to be just working with each other in your chart all year long. So if this calls to you, know that I'm available. I've already gone over that. If you want to join my membership and need a 1 month free, use that code at Tiffany Harlick. Reminder that your chart is your destiny. How you live, it's your free will. I'm going to stop the share and look at my notes for Rachel's chart and check the chat. And thank you guys for hanging in there with me. Marilyn says, yeah, intensity, be prepared, not scared. Yes, thank you. And she likes the forecast. Thank you so much. Um, okay. Nadine, perfect. Little note about Mercury and Sag retrograde over her sun. Natal Jupiter. Okay, this is great. Turning 65. So we should look at what the perfected what happens when you turn 65. What house is that in the perfected astrology? Oh, thanks, Des, for doing my links. And amazing. Look at you. Thank you. I just seen my links. Thank you, babe. Um, amazing. Okay.
You
I'm not
mean
seeing any questions, so
progressed? You mean
uh
to do my progressed chart?
well, I want to look at here. I'll just show you guys. Let me pull it up. Progressed.
You
Uh,
said perfected. Is that different?
I meant perfected.
Right.
Perfected is different than progressed. When you Google the perfected astrology
Okay.
like wheel, um, everybody can do this one. That's not the one I want. I'm just trying to find a good image. So annual perfections. Here we go. Let me show you this. Share screen. This guy. Um, This is the annual perfection wheel. So as you turn a different age, you have a different time lord for the year. And the time lord is based on what house of this age. This is an ancient Hellenistic technique. I like to play with it. So as Nadine turns 65 this year, this is a 6th house year for her. So health,
Yeah.
so Medicaid, right? Like Medicare, whatever. That's perfect.
There
Um,
you go.
we would then look at her chart. So what's the sign of your 6th house on the cusp?
Um, the cusp is let's see. The cusp of the sixth house is Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Scorpio
So
26, 25, 25, 20, 25 degrees, 45 minutes.
so Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pluto. We would just use Mars for purposes of
Yeah.
this. Because
Yeah, I'm into Pluto being the ruler of Virgo, but yes, Mars.
yeah, you can interpret it however you want. But
Yeah.
however, so Mars, so
Yeah.
she's going to be looking at any Mars transits affecting like the Mars retrograde cycle, the Mars transits to her chart. Mars inflames, Mars is heat. And so looking at nervines in the herbal world, things that soothe the nerves, looking at cooling things off when things get too heated, emotionally, physically, whatever. Um, these are some of the, like when our liver gets too hot, heat and gets congested, heat rises. We
Um,
have overstimulated thinking. The hamster's on the wheel, going, and there's nowhere to release. So thinking about Mars and heat in your chart is going to be very impactful. So not to get off topic.
that makes a
Um,
lot of my Mars is in Scorpio 27 degrees, but it's uh um yeah, so I'm in the sixth house for my Mars is in the sixth house, right over that sixth house line. And in Chinese medicine, I've read that my liver is the
Oh, you muted somehow. Oh,
And Graham,
yeah, okay, I unmuted. It sounds correct, but
back.
you
You're
just said
back.
the liver.
yeah, the liver, right? So no mistake that I brought that one up. It's good to have a psychic astrologer, right? But astrology, guys, astrology makes you more psychic. You're working with symbols, you're working with your intuition, you're working with science. It's really fun. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be hard. So, quickly going through
thanks.
the chat. Yeah, totally. Kendra is turning 44. She's saying ninth house. So that's making sense for her with teaching and learning spirituality. Kendra is a great tarot reader, guys. So if you guys are in our Facebook group, um, she has awesome comments. Post your card questions. She has a different deck that I don't know what it is or what. If you want to tell us, that's great. But I'm always like, what? Okay, the fish, what? And she has this cool interpretation. So so Sophia's last year was a sixth house year, and that's when she had her major health crisis. Hopefully she's moving past that. Uranus is going through my sixth house. I've had some health crisis, right? Things very unexpected changes. Des is also going to be in that ninth house year. So it's going to be different for Des and Kendra because there's different rulers. So it would depend on what sign was there. Um, but we're really off topic. So Kendra says that she's using the Lenormand decks and traditional cards. Okay, sweet. So if you're satiated, this is a good time for you to peace out. If you want to watch me go through Rachel's chart, I'm going to look at that more intensely because I already have notes on it and asked her permission for it. So if you want her data, because you want to follow along with your app or your um, astrology program, that's best. It's better for you to look at yours. If you don't have one, astro.com is the free and easy one. Her birth data is December 15th of 1959, 2:55 a.m. in Carmel, California. So this current retrograde cycle, December 13th through January 1st, Rachel does have an intercepted house, and it's going to be in her third house, intercepted, and her second house. So, communications and finances, money, the way that we're talking about money, the things behind money, the core values. I can't just work for a dollar. I've got to do something because of my core values. It's conjunct, it's right next to, it's kissing her natal Saturn and Capricorn, right? Saturn, that masculine force in our world. And Capricorn, it's like the boss, the authority figure, definitely a major player in her life now and has been in the past because I've worked with Rachel for several years. A brilliant astrologer of her own rights. She doesn't need me to tell her this. She's living her life, but it's that validation of it that makes it kind of come alive and make it make sense. This is intercepted in her third house. So her Saturn and Capricorn is intercepted in her third house during this current Mercury retrograde cycle, where it's going to be right next to that, passing over it, feeling like you're not being heard, feeling like you're saying stuff that isn't being met, feeling like you're perhaps there's a misperception of your words. It's just kind of that boss friction going on. If she wasn't currently employed, it would be kind of dad friction going on or God friction going on. And the friction behind that is provision and protection. So she may not feel like she can relax. She may not feel like she can trust the universe to protect and provide. She may feel on edge that she has to think, Mercury, her way through this situation, that she has to strategize. It may take her into a more masculine than necessary place of thinking and strategizing and planning, and out of the more feminine side of relaxing and trusting and understanding. And you don't want to blindly follow a leader that's up to no good. You don't want to be in a job situation where you're not heard or not feeling passionate or the money's not matching up. Like, this makes me think of a time when I was working for a publisher who was a terrible leader, who I later found out was using the funds that we were taking for printing books and buying cars, and then telling me that the printer was behind. So I'm telling all these authors, like, I don't know, the printer's behind. Meanwhile, he's just spending all their money. The printer's not behind, right? And I take the axe to the printer, and he's like, y'all haven't paid me. Like, you, what?
Hmm.
You know? And so there can be this, obviously, I quit after he didn't pay me, second house, for a few times, right? So that's a theme. Like, I could see that as a personal example of what's going on in her chart. So it's square her natal south node in Aries in the fifth house, right? So her natal south node
Actually,
in,
I think the natal south node is in the sixth house, right?
is it? Did I get it wrong? Let me pull your chart up. You would know better than me. Let's see.
Not necessarily true.
Let's see. No, it's good. So we want to find Bishop. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We are doing this during a shadow period. Okay, I got your chart.
No, you
No,
may be right.
no, it's in your fifth house.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's that really freaks me out too, especially I've seriously did 70 of these. It took me 2 days worth of data, and I just had to keep pausing because I didn't want to get information wrong. So I appreciate being questioned and the opportunity to feel confident about it. The squaring your natal south node, right? So this is something that feels like you've done this many past lives before. You've had these same issues many past lives. It feels very karmic. You're kind of done with it. You're kind of trying to get off the wheel. You don't want to reincarnate this particular pattern anymore, right? And I'm also saying with the fifth house, it's kind of a damper on fun, right? Duty calls. But so I can't, so it's like, sad face. I can't have my fun. It's because it's square her south node, right? Her south node is always opposite the north node, exactly. And so that means that it's also going to square her north node in Libra, which is in her 11th house of the audience, of friends, of her future, of her wishes. Amazing, Nadine. You guys have my back. Um, and so it shows us, that she's unsure of her audience. Who is she speaking to? What is she saying? Is it really getting the point across? Is she hanging out with the people that are her soul people? Who is she talking to? Why is she talking to them? There's this sense of this problem is destiny, you know? And how I play it out is how I move through it to not have the same occurrences. This is the one going on right now. Shifting, um, shifting into April, the Mercury retrograde in April goes from 15 to 27 Aries. So 15 to 27 Aries falls in her sixth house. Now you have the charts, you can really see if I'm right or wrong. It falls in her sixth house, and so her sixth house is ruled by Aries, Mars, right? So watch out for inflammation. Same thing I told Nadine. Study the nervines in your herbs. Study the homeopathy that reduces inflammation. Don't put yourself in like no sugar, no caffeine, no chocolates. The things that bring us pleasure and escapism also can inflame sometimes. Being aware of that, more hydration. This retrograde cycle is in her sixth house, but there are no conjunctions, no squares, no oppositions. So, the April, if she's having a shit time in April, she can't blame Mercury. You know? However, right, there's going to be the Uranus Jupiter conjunction. There's going to be the eclipse. There will be other things in the sky going on in a big way. So it's kind of a relief that there are no major planetary things going on. Now you guys are all seeing Eris, and you're like, wait, Tiffany, I see something in 8 degrees of Aries, and it's Eris, and I don't count Eris as I don't count it in these readings. You might, I don't.
Yeah, because we all have it.
We all have it. It's been in Aries for 9,000, I mean, for a really long time. So, yay for April being smooth. And then in August 5th through 28th of 2024, Mercury will retrograde from 4 degrees Leo to 21, 4 degrees Virgo to 21 Leo. So in her chart, that's her 10th house. So here we are again visiting work issues, right? Now, this can be positive, it doesn't have to be negative. It loosely conjuncts her natal Pluto in Virgo in the 11th house. So, this might be where she's got enough is enough, right? Where she's got this moment to change things for the world, for the tribe of humanity, 11th house. It's square her natal Mercury in Sag in her 2nd house. It's going to make her think twice, too. Like, does this express my core values? Or am I just taking money, and it doesn't feel so good? So
Where I am right now
where you are
is
right
I don't
now.
feel like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm talking to my audience.
Mm-hmm. It's
Um,
conjunct her natal Uranus and Leo in her 10th house. So
yeah.
this similar patterns, right? These are all fire sign. These are all fire sign retrogrades. So what really is your passion? And are you really doing that? That's a question for all of us, myself included, right? What are you ignited about? What do you want to reignite? These are for consideration, and they just get louder until we pay attention. The body just keeps going until it has a breakdown health crisis moment and says pay attention, right? Until we have to lay down and breathe and listen. So August
Yeah.
5th through 28th, that retrograde cycle way more intense than the April one for her. And then the
Yeah.
last one we're going to look at today is November 20th through December 15th of 2024. This is a 2nd house. So we go, so for Rachel, it goes 6th house and then 10th house and then 2nd house. Those are the big themes. So this last one, it's going to be right next to her natal Mercury. Previously, it was squaring it. Way more uncomfortable as a square. Now it's going to be right next to it. Her natal Mercury, her Mars, her Jupiter, her Sun in Sagittarius, right, in the 2nd house. That's a lot of action. It's a lot of action. Now, 2nd house activity, when it rains, it pours. It could be that you have a huge financial windfall. It could be that you have so much that it's overwhelming for you that you don't know what project to say yes to because there's a lot of abundance there, stimulated Mercury all over those 2nd house planets. um, Loosely opposes her natal moon in Gemini. So, Moon in Gemini people are born writers, they're born thinkers, they're born communicators. It's in her 8th house, right? The estate. So, she might be redoing some estate, some taxes, some tax planning differently. She might be in a different tax bracket because of all of this good money that's coming her way. And you can use this to start thinking positively to rewire your neural pathways to expect good things from these. It's square her Pluto and Virgo in the 11th house. She might be a groundbreaking case or challenge or work with some attorneys or do something for the ecosystem or for public health. Pluto and Virgo in the 11th house, right? Like part of her thing is about changing healthcare in some way. And that could be, and for the masses, for the tribe of humanity. And it could be as simple as a private thing that you do and share with a friend, 11th house. It could be like, hey, I tried this homeopathic remedy for these symptoms and it worked for me. And then it works for the next person and it has this trickle out effect. And you may never know the impact of your words or your personal healing journey, right? But you made a difference. So, one of the darkest moments in my life, I was like 3 months, I had stopped drinking at this point 8 years ago, and I was just really down, and I didn't like the process, and I didn't like the program, and I wanted to go back to the bar and just hang out and escape and have a beer, right? And that night that I decided I had a case of the Screw-Its and I wasn't doing this anymore, my door was barricaded by a stretcher and an ambulance and somebody that had tried to take their life from drinking in that moment. In that moment.
Whoa.
And
Whoa.
so I'm trying to get out of my house to go to the bar and I can't. And I slink down by the door and I hear the emergency worker talking to that person saying, have you heard of recovery? Do you think that you might want to light yourself up, live another way, right? And so that person will never, that was that person, hopefully that was that person's darkest moment, and they will never know that they changed the course of my life forever. You know, that moment, that their worst moment affected me so positively, and because of that, so many other people so positively, that I stood up for my life instead of just going down a spiral of depression, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, that's Pluto, right? That's dark underground, dark beer, bars, blood, guts, underground, like juicy Pluto stuff, right? So it's in your 11th house in Virgo. And so
Yeah.
I know that that you might write an article that gets published that you don't even get paid for or recognized for or anything, but something might change the course of somebody's life that has a huge effect on the tribe of humanity. So it can feel very heavy for me to say that you're changing the tribe of humanity, but the truth is that you might, right? So
Well, I've had a couple of publications that have fallen into that category.
mhm.
And I've been very pleased to have those opportunities. It was great. It was great. We actually working in partnership with a good friend of mine, leading scientist, we were able to change chemical laws in the United States that the USDA had refused to do anything about for 40 years, that had to do with cancer-causing drugs that were being put into our toothpaste and our shampoo.
Mhm. See,
Uh, so yeah, it's a possibility. It's just a question of what do I want to do next?
yeah.
Because
And
what I'm doing right now is not it.
it's not so I'm like you. Sometimes I learn about what I don't want and then I can see what I do want.
Yeah,
Um so I think the rest of it is a session another time, but at
yeah,
least this gives
totally.
everybody in class a general blueprint for what I'm looking at and where
Yeah,
the opposite and complementary can work together. When
yeah,
you're too heavy in one, do the opposite.
yeah,
When you're too heavily focused on what I want to do,
right.
how do I get out of that? It's through the opposite, right? It's what's wanting to happen through me. How can I be of service? I used to write all my books, and it was all about what I wanted to create, how I wanted to write. Right now, I ghostwrite for other people, right? And it's like what's wanting to happen through them to help the tribe of humanity. It's less about what Tiffany wants to do and more about how I can use my skills to let somebody else's story shine, right?
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
might be that pull of, and it might not, but I'm just trying to give everybody some ideas on how to get out of funks, to move through anxieties, depression periods, to realize that this too shall pass, that there are moments that we feel more pressured, and that the astrology will show you where, when, and how. And then it's our role, right, to move through it in the way that we want to move through it. That's our free will, and that's the biggest blessing that we were given. So um, I had a lot to say today. Didn't mean to go this long. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys.
thank you.
I'll have this back on YouTube. I'll email everybody. You can find me at tiffanyharlick.com. I appreciate you being here. This is my joy and my pleasure to talk about this stuff. And if it has made a difference, let me know. You know, email me, put a comment somewhere. I personally read every single thing. Sometimes it's delayed, but I really appreciate hearing from you guys. And until we can work together again, December, have a good one. In 2024, get your mind right. Expect good things to happen, and they will. Look for the signs, they're there. All right. Namaste, guys. Thank you.
Bye.